Hi everybody, Dan here. I think on this screencast, I'm going to bypass the style approach chapter. I want you to read it, but I'm going to bypass it because the situational approach chapter incorporates all of that material and it would just be too redundant. So trust me, the situational approach will cover the style approach as well, just in different terms, but the same stuff. What is this approach? Well, it focuses on the need for the leaders to match their style to the competence and commitment of their subordinates. That's an old-fashioned word for followers. But that's it. You're focusing on the competence and commitment of your people. And you're adapting your style to match that level of competence and commitment. So you'll see what that means in a moment. You'll have a better idea. The leadership styles are broken up really into two main behaviors: directive and supportive. In the previous chapter, it was called task and relationship. So what? It's just a repackaging. It's the same stuff, just with different terms. And of course, there's everything in between. We may not be totally directive or totally supportive. The directing style focuses on goal achievement. Here are your goals. Here are your metrics. And less time on supportive behaviors. Now, looking at this at first glance, you may think, well, gee, what kind of leader would not be supportive? That's the thing. It depends on the makeup of your people. If they don't cry out for supportive behavior, you can spend less time on it. In other words, if their commitment level is very high, you can spend more time on focusing on the goals. On the other hand, if you have people who need both direction and support and encouragement, then you would take on the coaching style, which is high directive, high supportive. It could be that the people you are leading are actually in need of support more than they are. In other words, they might be pretty competent. They don't need a lot of direction. They need support. And you'll see a graphic in a minute that makes this all clear. And then the delegating style offers really less of both. Now you may wonder what kind of a leader would pull back and offer less supportive behavior and less directive behavior. Well, it depends on the people that you are leading. They may not require either. And the best thing you can do is get out of their way and let them go. So now we look at the developmental, easy for me to say, we look at the development levels or developmental levels of the people that we are leading. So we had S1, S2, S3, S4 for leadership styles. Now we have D1, D2, D3, D4 for development levels. D1, a group of people at this level, D1 would be low in competence, but high in commitment. Picture new hires. New hires may not know exactly what to do in terms of the tasks, but they're pumped. They are full of energy. So you don't have to spend a lot of time supporting them. On the other hand, on D2, you can see that they need a little help with both task and supportive behavior. This is the coaching style. Then D3 is the supportive style because they're very, very low on commitment and they're doing pretty well on competence. And then D4 is when you get out of their way. This is when you have a high performance team that knows what they're doing and are pumped. That is the time for the leader to step aside and let them go achieve greatness. However, you're close enough to monitor the situation so that you can jump in when you have to, or anticipate needs and insert them accordingly. So the situational approach centers on the idea of subordinates vacillating along this developmental continuum. Notice they don't say evolve, because you don't really evolve from D1 to D2 to D3 to D4 because things can change. You can be highly competent as a group, and suddenly a new information management system is introduced into the company, and now everybody is back to D1. Or the company may enter a whole new marketplace that is different from the expertise that you're used to relying on, and you're back to D1 from D4. So the leader has to understand that the situation is always changing. And what the leader has to do is always be assessing the developmental position of the subordinates and then adapting the style to match that level. So the leader can never, ever become an absentee landlord. The leader always has to be there, but it can be very low profile the more competent and the more committed your people are. So how does it work? Well, this graphic here shows it in a nutshell. So spend a little time looking at this graphic. And you'll see, by the way, that developmental level 1 calls out for style 1. Developmental level 2 calls out for style 2. 3, 3, 4, and 4. That's a good way to remember it. So again, if you have people that are not sure about the task, but they're highly committed, you're going to be more directive. If you have people that have some competence, but they are low in commitment, you're going to be a coach. And you're going to offer high directive and high supportive. If you have people that are getting more and more competent, but still they're a little low in enthusiasm, now you have to be much more supportive than you are directive, because they're already good at this. They would resent you getting in their way when they already know what to do. And finally, this is what you hope to get out of a team: high confidence and high commitment. And this is when you let the team go achieve glory. Again, always monitoring, always assessing, always ready to exert some influence if it's appropriate. Now, I'll give you my 2 cents on this theory. And now let me ask you, are most of the leaders you've known famous for their flexibility to adapt their styles to the situation? Not in my case, and maybe not in your case. Often with leaders, it's their way or the highway. And I think especially under stress, even if a leader is flexible, even if a leader is able to adapt his or her style, put the stress on the leader and they revert to their old habitual self. So this theory requires a great deal of self-knowledge and a great deal of humility, because you are subordinating your role of leader to the demands of your followers. In other words, it's almost counterintuitive. You're almost following the lead of your followers. In other words, if they need support, you give it. But you're getting the clue from them, or getting the cue as to what leadership situation, leadership style you're going to use from them. So as leaders, we have to refrain from habitual behavior that worked in the past, but may not be appropriate now. Look, this is a theory that has been widely accepted in corporate America and in corporate training and development. It does make a lot of sense. I don't think it is as easy to do, that is, to lead this way, as the book suggests. I think it's very difficult, especially if a leader has a strong personality and habitual behaviors that have worked well in the past. But if a leader can control himself or herself and look to the situation honestly and assess it and then adapt the style and that is appropriate to the competence and the commitment of the followers, I think it's a fantastic leadership theory. Well, I think that's it for this one. We're going to take up some of these themes in the exercises. All right, thanks so much. Bye.